Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news tonight out of Grand Prairie, Texas, where Six Flags has dropped a bombshell on us, and Jim Reid-Anderson, the hero of many, the Jim Big Money Anderson, is back in the saddle, is back in control of Six Flags. Yes, John Duffey, the president and CEO of Six Flags, is out. He's lasted all of about 8 months, does not last an entire season. He is out. He is retired. Jim Reid-Anderson is back. And Dwain, my question is, why?
Boy, it could be a total eclipse of ideas and reasons why he could have done this. I mean, we could go from, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why here on this episode of Update. But, first thing comes to mind, if you're only there for 8 months, is it something bad? And we really hope and pray that, it's not an illness or something like that caused him not to be able to continue on with the job. So we're hoping and praying that it wasn't something like that. But you mentioned something to me that I thought is really interesting, was that maybe he accepted the position for the pay bump and then decided to retire. Some people do that. You hear that a lot of people, even in my profession and your profession of education, of double dipping. They'll actually retire, but then get the job back and get a long-term sub position and double dip the system. So maybe he's doing that for money purposes. Again, those are just a couple of the things, but really, is it something bigger? Is it the numbers? Yeah. Not just the numbers of money for the quarterly, earnings and all of that, but how about the people not being in the parks? We've been hearing all over Facebook, all over the place, that there just isn't the amount of people in the parks that you would expect to be there in the middle of July. The heat of summer, are there reasons for that? We don't know. We don't want to speculate, but is that a reason? And it very well could have pushed him out to say, oh man, there's no one in the parks, we're not making the money. He said Shazam, and now we get, the hero back.
Well, what's funny is that you say that, is that, as what brought that idea to my mind was that as I go through Facebook, at the beginning of the season, a lot of people were saying how there were not very long lines at different parks, both Cedar Fair and Six Flags and other parks too. So it's not just a Six Flags thing. That people were saying it, but now when I'm still hearing it in the middle of July, like you said, in the heat of the summer, in the height of the season, there's a big issue. I constantly see posts of people saying that there's no lines in the park, and I don't know if it's because of time of day, if they're just doing the park right and they're hitting favorable cues. Maybe the queue lines are indeed in their favor. I don't know, but to me, I get the sense that attendance is down this year. Attendance is down big, and I find it interesting that this announcement comes almost a week before the Six Flags quarter results are coming out, that they're going to be released pretty soon for the second quarter. And I'm wondering if they're not very favorable. Maybe John Duffey said, this isn't for me. I don't want to, or maybe on the flip side, maybe you're like, okay, we need a different direction and we need to bring back Jim Reid-Anderson. To me, though, it just seems like, John Duffey, how many decisions could he have possibly made in the time he was there, Well,
not very many, because you'd think that the outgoing, before him would have had plans going ahead of time. And even if he were able to get some things done he wanted, they would have been in the future, not now, because he was probably finishing stuff from the last administration. So again, all of this just does seem very fishy to me the more and more that we read into it.
Yeah, and because like when you say that, when we talk about the transition from Dick Kinzel, His Holiness, to Matt Ouimet, we know that Kinzel had plans on the docket already. There was a strategy, there was a 5-year plan. Some of that stuff changed. We know we hear that Gatekeeper was a last-minute addition, and I feel that things like Fury might have been changed locations, but Fury was still on the books. I feel we're finally understanding Matt Ouimet's policy with Cedar Fair, with the addition of a lot of other items besides roller coasters, with hotels and and sports force parks and all that. That we see a lot of investment into the experience and not so much the rides. We still see an investment in rides though, but it's like we're just getting that now. I just feel that now we're finally feeling what Matt Ouimet's policy is, and we're 3-4 years into it already. Right. Jim Reid-Anderson 8 months into it, and I don't feel like we actually got to see John Duffey. I don't think we've actually got to see. So I'm hoping that it's not a really bad thing that's happened to him. I'm hoping that it's money or something like that, or I just don't know what's going on here. But Six Flags, they're bringing back the boss, the man who established himself, who brought Six Flags back to prominence after the bankruptcy. Jim Reid-Anderson. I don't think there's a lot of people will question what Six Flags has done as a series of parks with quality, but you know what? He's put in some really quality rides that people seem to love. The RMC stuff is probably pretty high on that list. Even though they're cheap editions, they're not Fury 325 editions, but they seem to be ranking in a lot of people's top 10s all of a sudden. So you really wonder.
Well, I'm anxious to see what he does now going forward, because is he going to take anything that Duffey had? Is he going to implement any of that, or is he just going to scrap everything that might have come from Duffey and just start from scratch? Because that's the question. Because going in new and you really don't have any plans going forward that you have for next year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, and you're starting from the ground up with your plan.
Yeah.
How much of a lag are we going to see in the next couple of years for the Six Flags parks with this transition? Yeah. And is he just a stand-in for now until they find someone else? Or is he wanting to get back into it? Because that's another question that needs to be answered.
Yeah, exactly. Like usually you never want a company like Six Flags to be a ship without a rudder, if you will. And maybe Jim Reid-Anderson is just the placeholder guy to get to the next guy. But who knows? I do find it interesting that all of a sudden we hear about Georgia Cyclone closing. The speculation is RMC going back to the old formula. Is that part of this? Is that all working in here? I don't know, Dwayne, but it is interesting to see that we do have this major leadership change here mid-season at Six Flags. So, you'll have to, stay with us as we continue this story and all the stories leading up to the great announcement of 2017, all the great announcements coming out pretty soon. And we are just like the park should be in full swing. The parks may be empty, but COASTER-net Update and COASTER-net Uncut is keeping you abreast of every situation, right? Yeah. So, as always, thank you for joining us here. I'm Andy Robarczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Dwayne Sponseller from Parkersburg, West Virginia. May the Q lines be ever in your favor.
Right on, Ride Warriors. Woo! Stop recording.